The main thing against knight f3 is you just want to play bishop g4. Right? There's also bishop to f5, but I don't really like this too much because it does allow knight e5 ideas. Hello, welcome back to the Chess Mindset. In this video, I'll be talking about how to play the exchange variation of the Caro-Kann defense for beginners. So first of all, this video will be more geared towards beginners who want to get a general understanding of the Caro-Kann defense without memorizing tons of theory, right? And you just want to get like the general ideas and strategy behind this opening. So just to get you up to speed, the exchange variation starts off with e4 and obviously followed by c6. That's the Caro-Kann defense. And here white plays d4 and d5. And basically the exchange variation occurs when white takes this pawn on d5, right? And you take back. So this is the exchange variation of the Caro-Kann defense. And this sort of variation of the Caro-Kann is actually quite a good position for black because it sort of eliminates the tension in the center, right? Because if you go back to this position, white could play a few things here. He could advance this pawn to e5, which is called the advance variation, or he could sort of defend this pawn with c3, for example. And in these positions, the tension is sort of still there in the center, and it sort of becomes a little bit more complicated if you don't know the exact theory. But with the exchange variation, the nice thing about it is that since you take the pawns, right, you sort of eliminate all the tension in the center, and now you have this nice semi-open file for your rook to come in later in the game, and it's just sort of a less challenging sort of variation. So in this position, what you want to do is you want to understand the general plan behind black's strategy. So whenever you get the exchange variation, you want to quickly develop your knights and push e6 after you put your bishop out, your light square bishop out, play e6, and then develop your dark square bishop and then castle. Right, that's basically the general idea in this variation. And because there's no more tension in the center, you can achieve this plan pretty easily. Right, so let's just say something like knight f3. You're gonna just develop your knight. It doesn't really matter which one you did first, right? And let's just say something like bishop here, then you're gonna play knight here. And a very sort of general guideline to follow in the exchange variation is whenever they play knight f3, you're gonna bring your light square bishop out to g4 and sort of pin this knight. Because notice now that you're pinning this knight, otherwise, because if they move it, then you're just gonna take the queen, right? So now that you've pinned this knight, it's a very simple position where you don't actually have to do anything to this bishop. If they ever play h3, then you can just trade, right? You just take the knight, and you're actually very happy with this position, because what you need to understand is, right, the most annoying thing as a Caro-Kann player is if they play h3, which stops your light square bishop from developing. And because they don't play that, right, they play knight f3, then you can just develop your light square bishop out and then lock it behind this pawn chain with e6. So after, let's say, h3, you trade it off, and then you can play e6, and now you've locked this sort of pawn structure, and now you don't have to worry about your bishop being stuck anymore, right? And of course, you can develop your dark square bishop out as well, and then just castle. So the main thing against knight f3 is you just want to play bishop g4, right? There's also bishop to f5 in this position, but I don't really like this too much because it does allow like potential knight e5 ideas because you're not pinning the knight anymore, right? So this is a little bit iffy for me personally because I don't really like getting into these positions where it gets a little bit more tactical, right? You play knight here, and then there's like ideas like now they can take the pawn, and it just sort of gets a bit messy, especially for beginners. You want to keep this very nice and positional, and you want to keep it solid, right? So whenever they play knight f3, just remember, okay, just play bishop g4, pinning this knight, and now you don't have to worry about any knight coming in, like here, for example. So that's one idea of the exchange Caro-Kann. Whenever they play knight f3, you just play bishop to g4. And another thing, right, you want to develop this knight, of course. You want to develop your knight to f6, and you want to sort of get this bishop out like as soon as possible, and then lock it behind with e6. So let's just say something like this, right? And if they don't provoke your bishop with h3, then you don't actually need to take, right? Because the knight is still pinned. So this bishop is doing a pretty good job. And another idea is whenever they play sort of bishop to f4, Now you can just play e6, and then let's just say something like bishop to e2. And because their dark square bishop is on sort of this diagonal, and it's pretty annoying because now you can't play queen to c7, you also can't play queen to d6. What I really like to do here is play my dark square bishop out to d6, and this challenges this dark square bishop. So now if they take, then that just helps your own development, and now you've got this active queen, which can basically be on a more active square. And now you can develop your knight and then bring your rook to c8, and the game goes on, and you're gonna have a very nice and solid position. So yeah, whenever they play their dark square bishop out to e4, a very nice move is obviously just bishop d6, and then trade off the bishops and you're good to go. Now if they play bishop to g5 and sort of trying to attack your knight, then you're still gonna play e6, right? And usually when they bring their bishop out here and pinning your own knight, so because now you can't move your knight, otherwise your queen will get taken, I really like to bring my bishop to e7. So let's just say something like bishop here. Now I really like to play bishop to e7 and sort of keeping this queen ready to move out. Whereas in this position, right, if let's just say something like this, if I just move my queen out straight away, then they can take this knight and damage my pawn structure, right, and give me double pawns, which I don't really like. So it's good to always play bishop to e7 to sort of, so if they ever take, then you take with the bishop and your pawn structure stays intact. And those are pretty much the only variations you need to think about when it comes to this dark square bishop, right? If they come to, let's just say you play this first, right? If they come to bishop f4, then you just play bishop to d6 and trade off the bishops. And if they play bishop to g5, attacking this knight and pinning your queen, or sorry, pinning your knight, then you can play bishop to e7 and sort of just keeping this under control. And in the next few moves, you can just castle and the game goes on and you have a pretty good position. Now, you could play h6, but you don't really have to. I mean, if something like this, right? Like you could play h6, although you don't really have to, because like they're gonna take anyway. Like if you do this, then they're just gonna take, right? They will take if they want to anyway, so you don't really have to play h6. But if they ever play h3 attacking your own bishop, let's just say you keep developing your knights, and if they ever play h3 attacking your light square bishop, then you're just gonna take, right? I don't like retreating the bishop because that leads to sort of complications like this, where it could get a little bit tactical. So I really like to just keep it simple and trade everything off if they ever take like that. Right now you have this very nice pawn structure, your queen can come out, your rook can come out to c8 and have this semi-open file, and the game just goes on and you have a very nice position. Yeah, the general idea is just to develop your knights and then develop your light square bishop, lock it behind with e6, create this nice pawn structure, develop your dark square bishop out to d6 or e7 depending on where your opponent places their bishop, right? And of course, if they play it passive with, like, let's say bishop to e2, sorry, bishop to d2, and let's just say something like this, right? And we get this position, then this bishop, your dark square bishop, you naturally just want to develop it to d6 just because it is a more active square. And later down the line, you could play queen to c7 and create this battery with the bishop and queen. So let's just say something like this, right? We get the exchange. Let's just say now you can go queen c7 and you're going to set up this battery with the queen and bishop and put pressure on your opponent's kingside. So that's sort of why bishop to d6 makes a little bit more sense if your opponent is passive with their own bishop. If you're under 1000 Elo, I've got a beginner to 1000 Elo course inside my Skool community. It's designed to help you stop making simple mistakes and improve faster. Link in the description below. Yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know about the exchange variation. As I said, it is a very simple variation of the Caro-Kann where there's not much theory. You just need to memorize a couple key principles that we talked about, such as the knight f3 move where you have to pin it with the bishop to g4 move, and also the bishop to f4 move where you have to develop your dark square bishop to d6 and then trade it off like that. And otherwise, there's not really much in this variation, and the rest is pretty simple. Like if you just play like normal moves like this, right, where you trade everything off. Like I've had loads of games that end up like this, something like this. You play e6, and create this nice and stable pawn structure. Castles, right, bishop to b6, and if they ever bring their bishop to g5 after you play bishop to d6, you can just simply drop it back. Like, it is wasting a tempo, but I find that it is very helpful for beginners, especially because it just creates it like a very nice and simple game plan where you don't have to worry about too much. And of course, like, it is a little bit like better because let's just say you play something like this, they could trade everything off, and after that you will end up with double pawns. So if you want to avoid that entirely, you can just bring your bishop back to e7. Other than that, the rest of the game, it's pretty simple, right? You always have this queen to b6 idea to target this pawn. So let's just say something random like this. You can bring a queen here, target this pawn. Before playing like any pawn moves at the queen side, you should castle, and then after that you can start to think of like, okay, pushing a5, b5, b4, and you're going to start your attack on the queen side. And because you've got this semi-open file for your rook and queen, this becomes very straightforward, and your king side is very safe because of these pawns here. And notice that your opponent doesn't have the e pawn anymore because they exchanged it in the beginning. So now they can't actually threaten to take or sort of like undermine this pawn right here. And of course, if they play that, then you can sort of prevent that with b5 as well, right? So overall, this game plan is very simple to follow, and it will lead to very stable positions, and you're gonna have pretty good games from this, especially if you're a beginner who doesn't want to be memorizing tons of theory. So I hope this explanation gave you a general idea of the exchange variation of the Caro-Kann. Now, as I mentioned before, this variation is the less challenging variation, right? Especially if they play just like knight c3, and then you can just develop your pieces like this. A more challenging variation of the Caro-Kann would be to not take this, but actually play f3, and this is called the fantasy variation. And this is a more challenging variation. Or the other option they have is to play c4 in this position, which is called the Panov attack. And in this position, it is a little bit more complicated, but I won't go over this in this video today because this does require a whole different set of game plans. Like, you have to play e6 to block in your light square bishop early to protect this pawn, and just leads to a different sort of game plan I'll be mentioning in a different video. But for today's video, which just focuses on the exchange variation, it is a very simple variation where you really don't have to worry about any of that, right? You just have to worry about getting your light square bishop out, exchanging it, and then playing e6 to create this very nice pawn structure, developing your knights, developing your dark square bishop, developing your other knights, castling, bringing rooks to the c file where it has a semi-open file, queen b6 ideas, and then eventually expanding on the queen side with a5, b5, and b4. So overall, I hope this video gave you a good understanding of the exchange variation, and if you want to see more variations of the Caro-Kann, for example the advanced variation, then I will be covering that in future videos, and I'll be covering basically like many variations of the Caro-Kann defense as well, including the advanced variation and also the fantasy variation, and also the classical variation with knight c3. So if you want to see those videos, then stay tuned, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.